Good morning, everyone. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to migrate your YelpCamp application's Bootstrap 3 design framework to the newest version of Bootstrap, which is Bootstrap 4. So let's get started. So this is what it's going to look like whenever it's upgraded to version 4. It looks very similar. The buttons have more of a flat design, and then the thumbnails are using what is called a card, but it's all very similar and the changes are very easy and quick to make. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns in a row at a large screen size. As I make it smaller, it goes down to 3 and then 2 and then 1. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to my code. So this is the completed version, and let's see here, git add git commit dash amend. So what I'm doing is I'm just saving the changes that I have, and then I'm going to go back in time to when it was Bootstrap 3, and then we can start working from there. So give me just a second to do that. So if I look at git log, if you're not familiar with Git, don't worry about it. I have migrate from BS3 to BS4, so I'm going to go back here to an earlier commit, and now if I run no daemon, which is the same as node app.js, you can see starting node app.js right here, and I refresh this. Now this is how it looked before with the original version Bootstrap 3. Okay, so let's dive into it. I'm going to open up my code, if I can get it to open, in Sublime Text, and I'll try to make the font size a little bit larger so it's easier to read. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is change the Bootstrap 3 files, the CSS and the JavaScript, to Bootstrap 4. So I'm going to go to my views directory, and then in partials, header EJS. That's a little bit too big for my liking. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. Well, first, here's the CSS right here. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, actually I have to go to the footer file, and we'll change that to HTML, make it a little bit prettier. Down here I have jQuery, search feature that I coded, and then Bootstrap. Okay, so let's go over to getbootstrap.com, which is the official Bootstrap documentation website. And it says it's currently in version 4.00. Awesome. It was in alpha for the longest time, and a couple versions of alpha, and then beta, and I think there was 2 or 3 versions of beta, and then now it's finally in the stable version of 4, so I'm more comfortable going in and teaching you guys how to upgrade from version 3 to version 4, because I know that nothing's going to change for this specific version. Okay, so if I go to get started, immediately they have the links to the CDNs. You can download it. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm more concerned with changing the syntax, the class names, to get all of our user interface components working the way they should be. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. They have a nice little copy button right here. This is for the CSS. I'll go back here, go back to my header file. I'm going to find the CDN that I have for 3.3.7, which is what I was using, and replace it with 4.00. So I'll go ahead and save that, and just make sure that your main.css or style.css, whatever you're using for your custom styles, comes after the Bootstrap. That way if you're overriding any of the Bootstrap classes, those changes will take effect. So going back over to here, now I'm going to copy what they have for JavaScript. So they have jQuery, and then a library called Popper.js, and then their own JavaScript plugin. So I'm going to copy these and go back over here to my footer, and I already have jQuery 3.1.1, which I think jQuery is now in 3.2.1. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, and I'll just go ahead and get rid of that comment, and then I'll get rid of the Bootstrap code right here. I'll leave my custom code at the bottom, and so right above that I'm going to paste in what we have here. So I'll just put a note in here, a comment, and this will be Bootstrap and its dependencies. Okay, so we have 3.2.1. You'll notice this is the .slim version. I typically don't recommend using the .slim version because it doesn't have all of the features of jQuery. So if you have custom code that uses like .fade out, .fade in, toggle fade, things like that, then don't use the slim version. But I'm not planning on doing any of that in my code right now, so I'm fine with using the .slim version that they give me by default. If you do run into any issues, just know that that's probably the problem in your custom JavaScript, that you're using jQuery and some of those like fade in, fade out features aren't working. You can circle back and you can change this to the regular minified version. Okay, so now our JavaScript is in here. I'm going to make sure that I save our file. And if I go back to the working application and refresh, let's see what breaks. Okay, so not too bad. We've lost our entire navigation bar up top, but everything else looks okay. So we'll notice that the thumbnails aren't looking exactly how they were supposed to look. So let's start with the nav bar and see if we can't get that nav bar working again. So back on the documentation, if I go to examples, and they have all different types of pre-made themes and examples for like a blog and a backend dashboard, things like that. But I'm interested in, let's see here, the nav bars. So if you go down to nav bars, they have a couple different nav bars, and just glancing at these, their default nav bar is kind of an inverse of what we have been using. We were using the lighter theme nav bar, and now we're going to go ahead and use their default, which is this dark gray. So if I go to navbar static, you can see they have the regular navbar here, and if you scroll down, it doesn't scroll with the page, so it's a static navbar. So to get this code, I just right click and view page source, and I know that everything for the navbar specifically is going to be inside of the nav HTML element. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, go back to my code, go to my header, and here I have navbar default, goes all the way down to here. Now I actually have a bunch of custom links specific to our YelpCamp app. I don't want to get rid of those, so I want to migrate the links from one over to the other. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see better what is happening here. I'm going to hide the sidebar, and I'm going to paste in the new one. Okay, so this is the new one, and this is the old one. And right away we know that we want the navbar brand to say YelpCamp, and we want it to go to the root URL. So I'm going to go through here and look for navbar brand, and there it is. It's the first link, and I'll change that to YelpCamp, and then I'll change the hash to a /. Okay, so that part's done. I'm going to ignore all this toggle navigation stuff. This is for the hamburger. That's already being handled. Let's see here. You know what? I'm not sure if this one even has a hamburger, so let's go back and see. I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, it is there. It's right here. They just handle it a little bit differently with their syntax. Okay, good to know. All right, so going back to my code, I am going to scroll back up here, and the important things that I need out of here is going to be my homepage link, and then my login and sign up links, and then if we're signed in, the signed in as with the username, and then the logout. So this is inside of an unordered list. Let's go ahead and pull that entire unordered list. Looks like the homepage link is on the left hand side, so let's start there. So I'm going to copy the first unordered list. It's navbar nav, and I'll go down here and try to find its Bootstrap 4 counterpart. So here is a home button, and it has like a little span that says current, but this is actually SR only, so screen reader only. So this list item is for home, and then this right here is the parent unordered list. So I'm going to paste the new one or the old one next to the new one, and you can see the differences is we have navbar nav mr auto, so that's margin right auto. That's a new class, and it just says that the margin to the right of this unordered list is going to be auto. So they don't have the nav class anymore, so we'll take that out. And then the mr auto, we'll go ahead and put that in. And if you look at their list items, they have this nav item class. So we didn't have that. Here you can see this class This is just some EJS that's saying if we're on the home page, then go ahead and add an active class. Otherwise, don't add an active class. So right before that, I'm going to put this nav item class and put a space between that and the EJS. Okay, so that's all we needed for the home. Let's go ahead and take this out and we'll save it. And if we go back and look at our application, okay, so here is the new nav bar. The home link is right here. Here's the old nav bar still not appearing correctly. Here's this search that we're not going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our code, scroll back up, and now we want to get all the links from the right hand side of our navigation. So this second unordered list, and we're going to copy these, and right beneath this unordered list with the home button that goes on the left, we'll paste this one. It goes on the right, and we don't need that form. This is the search form. So we do want to take a look at the classes that they have here. So that's margin top is 2, margin top, I'm not sure what the MD0 is. I'll have to look that up, but we're not going to be using this. So I'm going to go ahead and get, oh, okay, margin top medium. So that's for a medium screen size. We don't need this. We're going to get rid of the form. And we know we don't need the nav here. So we have nav, navbar, nav, and then we have navbar right. Let's just see if that works. So I'll save it and I'll refresh. And all these links are over here to the right, but they aren't lined up correctly. So if we go back, what's missing? Well, if you remember, the list items in the new one have that class of, and we just added it, nav item. So we have a list item here that needs it, space, a list item here, nav item space, and then our list item here that doesn't even have a class, and the one below it doesn't even have a class. So class equals, and we'll do nav item. We'll save those. And now if we go back and we refresh, what's going on? Let's go back to our code, list item, navbar right. Maybe the navbar right isn't being used anymore, and that could be throwing things off. So let's remove that. And we're having a little bit of trouble here. So let me see if we can find an example where there are links on the right-hand side. So currently, all I'm seeing are searches. Here's one. Okay, so this has some links on the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and view the page source. And scroll down. Let's see here. Features, enterprise, support, and pricing. Here they are. And it looks like, they're using a flex column to put it on the right-hand side, which is not necessarily what we need. I'm not going to dive into Flexbox in this lecture because it's a lot more stuff to learn. But just know that Bootstrap 4 does make use of Flexbox, so it's a lot easier to move things around once you actually learn that syntax. Okay, so this may not be what I need. I'm going to go back and see if I can get it working another way. So first of all, I'm going to take the original nav. I think we're done with everything that's inside of there, and get rid of it. And then this, everything inside of here actually needs to be tabbed out. Okay, so here we have it. Let's save it, go look at its current setup. So if first of all, I'm seeing that the home, login, and sign up are blue. Let's see if I can get back to the original one that we're going off of. If I scroll down, navbar static, these are gray and white if it's active, and then dark gray if it's disabled. So I'm going to inspect that with the Chrome inspector, and you can see that the reboot.css file is overwriting this right here. Reboot.css is overwriting. I think I spotted the issue. Okay, so if I go back to the source code for the navbar static and I look at the anchor tags, what do we notice? I'll go back over here. Actually, there's none in here because I already replaced it. But if you see here, the anchor tags have a nav link class. And if we go back over to our code, we look at the anchor tags, and I know this is a lot of code, it's getting kind of messy, so let's go ahead and format some things nicer. So I'm going to move the anchor tag to here, and then this anchor tag down here. I'll just do the same with all these. I'll put them on their own line, and they're tabbed out so you can see them a little bit easier. And one more. Okay, so what we notice about all of these anchor tags right here is that none of them have a class. So after the href, I'll click there, here, 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 put a space, class equals nav link. Now, let's see if that changes things for us. So if we refresh, oh, awesome. So the login over here is working, sign up is working, they're gray, and then they have their hover, which is a little bit lighter gray. The home, however, is still not working, and I think that's because I neglected to add it there. So up here is where home is. Let's do a class equals nav link and refresh. And not only is it the right color, but now it's white because it's active because we're on the home page. Okay, so that's it for the nav bar. Let's go ahead and start working on the grid system. So these are using thumbnails, and if you go to the migration guide, then you'll find out that I'm just going to go ahead and search for thumbnails. Down here it says panels, thumbnails, and whales. Wells. So if you click on that, it says that, let's scroll down and find, let's see here. Panels, progress, carousel, tables, da 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 da. Okay, it just says that all three of these were dropped entirely for the new card component. So if we go over to the left here and we search card, it says components and then cards. So if we click on the first one, it pulls up the documentation for cards. Bootstrap's cards provide a flexible and extensible content container with multiple variants and options. Okay, so here's an example of a card. Looks very similar to thumbnails that we were using previously. They have a title, they have a little bit of content in there, they have a link, a button, and then they have an image at the top. So the syntax is pretty simple. Let's go ahead and copy that, and we will go back over here. Now we're done with header EJS, so I'll go ahead and close that, and we're done with footer. Now I'm gonna search for the index page for campgrounds. So campgrounds index, here it is, views campgrounds index EJS. We'll change the highlighting, make it a little bit bigger. Okay, great. So if we scroll down, first and foremost, I can see that I have this flex wrap class. That's something that I added because in Bootstrap 3 they don't use flexbox, and we had an issue where at certain screen sizes the columns would have a bunch of white space on certain rows, and then you add flexbox and it would fix that. Well, we don't need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of flex wrap, which also means that inside of my CSS file I can go find that flex wrap CSS rule, and I can get rid of that also. So I'm going to go ahead and close the CSS now that I got rid of the flex wrap. I got rid of the class here, and here is the div for class of thumbnail. So let's step right beneath it and put in a card, and now we'll just pull the information about the individual campgrounds and put that into a card. So let's start with the image. We need the source. So we'll find image, source, right here is a dot dot dot. We'll replace that with the EJS for the campground image, which gives us the URL. And then the alt text. This says card image cap. That's fine. I prefer to put something descriptive about the image. So we'll go ahead and use the campground name. So I'll replace that with campground name. And card title, another place where we can put campground name. And then it says some example text to build on the card title and make up the bulk of the card's content. Okay, so if you wanted, you could put like a short description in here about the campground. We use Substring for this in the blog application, the RESTful blog application. You can actually do it with CSS, using something called an ellipsis. I'm not going to go into that right now because I don't want the description. I just want the name and then a link for view more. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that paragraph, the card text paragraph. And then we have an anchor tag here, which is styled like a button primary. So here we have the same thing. I'm going to copy the href URL and replace the href down here. And then this says more info. So I'm going to copy that, and this says go somewhere. I'm going to replace go somewhere with more info. That's everything we need from the thumbnails. We're going to get rid of them. And now our thumbnail has been replaced with a card. And all my spacing's messed up. I'm not too worried about that though. So I'm just going to save it and go back over here to our application and refresh. Okay, so it's kind of working. The borders look right. The buttons are nice. There's a little bit of a rounded edge on each of the four corners, but they're overlapping a little bit. I'm going to go back, and I remember that there was an inline style that has a width of 18 rem. So that doesn't need to be there. It's just messing up the default width for these. So I'm going to get rid of that, save it, come back here, and refresh. And now there's a nice even margin between each of the cards, and they align perfectly with the container and with the Jumbotron that's inside of the overall container. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we go to the next line. There's another one. If I make it smaller, we still have 4, we still have 4, we get 2, we get 1. All of that is because we have call medium 3, call small 6. Okay, so call small 6 is fine. Call medium 3, I would prefer it to be 4, and then call stands for column. Call LG, which is large, and I'll put 3. So on a large screen size, we have 3, and then medium we have 4, and then small we have 6, and then by default the extra small, which is mobile, is going to be 1. So I'm going to refresh the page. So on my large screen size, I have 3, so 12 divided by 3 is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go down to medium, and we get 3, so 12 divided by 4, 4, 4, 4 is 3. And then we go to small, we get 2, and then when we get to mobile, we get 1. So there are some changes in the grid. I'm not going to go over them because we're just trying to migrate the YelpCamp application with the newer syntax. But if you want, you should look up the new changes. It makes the grid a little bit easier to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that, and let's just double check the rest of our site. So the footer is still working fine. You'll notice though that there's no margin between the bottom of the tallest card or this card right here and what comes beneath it. So before we move past the grid, I'm going to go back here, and on the bottom of the column, or column since this is inside of a loop, I'm going to put MB, which stands for margin bottom, and then dash, and then 4. So margin bottom dash 4, save that, and refresh. You'll see now there's a margin here, now there's a margin here, although it may be a little bit hard to see. If I make this smaller, you see the margins and the margins here. So they're not touching one another. If I inspect, I can look at the margin here. Let's see if I can get it. I have to look at the card, or the column. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can see that the margin here is 24. So I'm pretty sure that margin bottom is going to represent probably REM, so 4 REM, or maybe it's EM. Here we go. Yep, 1.5 REM important for margin bottom. So if you don't know about REM, it's just based off of the root elements settings. And so the HTML element would be the root setting, or the root element, and it does some math on that, 1.5 times that number. So I'm not sure if we can see that here. Yeah, I'm not seeing that here, but that is how it's calculated. If you want, just go ahead and look up how REM and how EM work, and the differences between the two, and then how they work with CSS. That's not really what this lecture is about, but just know that that is how, I think Bootstrap in 3, they used to use percentages to make things responsive, and now they're using REM. So go ahead and take a look into that. You'll probably find information about that on Google, obviously, Stack Overflow, definitely on the Bootstrap documentation, and then any one of the popular CSS sites. I think CSS Tricks is a good one. Okay, so moving forward, we've added the margin there, and let's go ahead and check our login page. This actually looks pretty good. I'm noticing that the login link is to the left, and if we go to sign up, the sign up link is to the left, so we don't want that. Let's go ahead and open up login.js. We'll change the syntax, and it doesn't like this h1 not being inside of a column, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. We'll do call medium 12 and then paste this in here. If you're wondering how I just did that, where I had the dot for the class name and then the class name, and then I hit tab and it made the actual div, that's from Emmet, EMMET.io. It's just a package that I've installed for writing markup really quickly in Sublime Text. Okay, so I put this div with class of call medium 12, and then inside of it there's an h1 and it says login. Here's some inline style for text align center. I'm not a huge fan of inline styling. I try to avoid it as much as possible. So let's get rid of that. And there's actually a nice little class we can use up here, which is just going to be text, if I can spell correctly, dash center. So we'll go back here and refresh. That's the register page. Go to the login page, refresh. Here it is, login right in the middle, just how we wanted it. I'm also seeing that the style, we have a width of 30%, margin of 25 pixels auto. Not a huge fan of inline styling yet again, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And we'll do a class equals, and let's just start with a call medium 12, which takes up the whole entire column space. And if we refresh, okay, so now it takes up this whole area. All right, there's got to be a better way to do this. We want it to look how it did before, but we also don't want to use inline styling. So let's take a second and go back to the examples that they have here on Bootstrap and see if we can't find a login example. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. Sign in. So if I click on this, this is pretty nice. It's got four rounded corners, and it takes these two inputs and kind of puts them together with no margin between them, just a little border. So I like that. I like the look of that. They have the center text. This is cool. So let's go ahead and view the page source. And they just have their form here. They put their text center on the body. That's fine. We'll leave it on our column like we had before. So what I'm interested in is what comes inside of the form. So first we'll just copy the entire form. And we'll go back over here. And right beneath this form, I'll paste this in. So they have a form sign-in class, which makes me think that they probably have some custom CSS going on here. So I'm going to go over here to the custom styles for this template. They have a signin.css file. I'm going to click on that. And they do something with the HTML in the body. I'm not too worried about that. They have some stuff for the body for Flexbox. And then they have this form sign-in class. And then they have the checkbox, which we're not going to be using. They have the form control, control focus, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to copy everything in here. And we'll go see how it matches up with what we have in our custom style sheet. So I will go to main.css, if I can spell. And we have some stuff going on up here for HTML and body. I believe that comes from the sticky footer styles for the sticky footer navigation at the bottom. So let's go ahead and paste in this new stuff. And let's take out what we don't need. Well, if you want to have a checkbox, that's fine. I'll just leave it in there. But we have stuff in here for HTML and body. The main difference between what we have here and what we have down here is that HTML is minimum height of 100%, and then body has a margin bottom of 60 pixels. So let's take the margin bottom and let's add that into body. We'll save that. And then these both have a height of 100%, so that should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this and save it. So now we have the stuff in here for the styles for the login, but we also have the styles that we need for the footer. So let's make sure that didn't break our footer. We'll refresh the page, and yeah, it's doing some weird stuff now. Okay, so let's see if we can't get these to work in harmony. I'm gonna go back, and let's see here. Let's see if we can do the position relative on HTML may be what screwed it up. So I'm gonna go up to the top and add HTML. And then I'm gonna add this position relative in here. And we'll see if that has anything to do with it. Okay, that's still not working. It probably has something to do with this flexbox stuff. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so what's going to be the easiest way to do this? Let's go ahead and take all this back out. Go back to how it was. And I think I just, let's see, take that out, save that. Okay, so back how it was. If I refresh, that you can see that this is taking up the whole width of the container. And then we're not getting these two right here for the email and password. Let's see here. Because I kind of like the effect that it had where these two got put together. It's still not taking effect. Probably wants to use these two. I'll take out the checkbox. Put that in there. Get rid of that. Put the space here. And we'll refresh it. Once I get it working, then I'll go through what exactly we did. So let's see here. What else? The problem may be that we're not actually using all the correct classes. And I'm seeing, let's see here, login. I have two forms, and it's only showing one. This is the original form. Get rid of that. Okay, now when I get rid of the original form, it's showing me the new form. Let's just first of all make sure that we have all the correct inputs in here. So what we need is we need one input with a name of username and another one with a name of password, and that's it. So I'm going to get rid, we also need the form action to go to /login with a method of post. So I'll get rid of the original form. Class, that's fine. Action equals /login, and then method equals post. Okay, we don't need the image here. It says please sign in right here. We have login up there. Let's go with one or the other. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the login stuff up top. Now it says email address, type equals email. Everything in here is fine except it doesn't have the name attribute. So right before the placeholder, I'm gonna say name equals, and we'll do username, and then we'll change email address to username, and then this is type equals email, so we'll make it type equals text. This says input email, so we'll change it to input username for the ID, and that means that the label needs to match the 4 to the ID, and therefore we need to copy this and paste it in here. Okay, so everything's good to go for the input label and the input itself for username, except for the placeholder I'm seeing is still saying email address, so we'll say username. Everything for password's good to go because we are using a password, so we'll go ahead and change the name equals password. That way body parser can find the password, we can send it to Express in the back end, we can use Passport to create, or in this case to log in the user with the username and password. There is a div here for the checkbox. We do not need that because we don't have a remember me option, not right now anyway. And then they have a button that says sign in, and then we have a copyright 2017 2018. We don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to save all this. We'll go back and let's check out how it looks now. Okay, so you'll notice that the bottom part of this is rounded, the username input, and that's because in our CSS, we're using input type equals email, but we need that to be input type equals text. So if I refresh, now it's flat just like that. If we go back to the example and you click on this, it highlights the blue all the way around, that's almost what's happening here, but the username is not on top. The blue gets hidden behind the password. So let's see if we can pull a couple more things from the styling here. And let's see what's going on here. Here we go. This is the one that we may be missing. It has to do with the Z index for the focus. So whichever one is in focus is the one that's going to be on top. So Z index is 2. It just sets it above the other input. And this is going to change it to where now the blue ring around it for the focus is visible. So click that, it's working. Okay, everything looks good except for the go back button is now off to the left inside the container. Let's go back here, and we don't necessarily want to put the go back button inside the form. That would be the easiest option, but let's see if we can find a more elegant way of doing it without having to put something inside the form that doesn't necessarily have to do with the form. So if we go to main.css, form CSS max width is 330 pixels. Okay. So width 100% padding. This form sign-in class could actually be used again. So let's just do a form sign-in, and we'll move this up inside of it. This is the go back button, and now it should be right there underneath it. Okay, cool. So that's it for sign-in. We can test, of course, to make sure it works. And it does. So I'll go ahead and log back out. And see you later. Great. Sign in. Sign up is still the same as it was before. So let's just copy everything from the form here. And we'll open up the register EJS, change the highlighting. And now the main difference here is that we are saying sign up instead of login, and we're posting to the register route. So we will get rid of this div, do a call medium 12. Of course, we're going to make that a class. And then the sign up, we don't need that. We're going to take this form and the go back button and paste this in. And up here, instead of saying please sign in, we'll say please sign up. We'll change login to register. This is username still and password. And then instead of saying sign in, we'll say sign up. So we'll refresh. Please sign up, username, password, sign up, or go back. So we have our login, please sign in. And then we have our our sign up, please sign up. Okay, so does this work? EN2, make a password and click sign up. And successfully signed up. Nice to meet you, EN2. Awesome. So let's double check our add new campground form. Check it out. This up here is off center. So let's go real quick into our campground's new EJS file. And we got the same thing going on here where we're using a row, and then the H1 has got this text center inside of a style. I don't like that. So we'll do a call medium 12 with a text center, and then we'll move the H1 inside of there. And if we go back, okay, so that's how we want it to look. And then this is style, width 30%, margin 250 pixels. Let's go ahead and look at the grid system for a minute and see if we can't replicate this without using that inline style. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to getbootstrap.com, go to the documentation, and then I'll look up the grid. So we have layout, grid system. Okay, so what I'm looking for is a kind of a slim column centered in the middle of the page. So let's see if we can get that working. So it even says here, if you're new to or unfamiliar with Flexbox, then you can go through their guide. So if you have some time, I definitely recommend doing that because Bootstrap 4 does use Flexbox. So I'm going to go down. We got column, 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 that's fine. Those are equal length columns. This situation could work if we wanted 2 columns with nothing inside of it and then 1 column with content. So we may actually use that. So that's a row with 3 equal length columns. You don't put call medium or call large or anything like that. You just say call, call, call. And no matter what screen size you're on, it's going to make them all the same size. So that could potentially be what we want. It says something here about equal width columns can be broken into multiple lines, but there is a Safari Flexbox bug that prevented this from working without an explicit flex basis or border. So that is something that you can run into. We're not going to worry about it right now. Let's see here. So this is for making the middle column wider. So they're saying call 5. It just takes up 5 of the allotted 12 column spaces. Let's see. Is there anything that we want? This is for vertical spacing, horizontal alignment. Okay, so this may be what we want. This uses Flexbox. Row justify content start, row justify content center. So let's see if we can't get this to work. We have row justify content center and then call for in the middle. So if we do row justify content center, and then here we get rid of this and we do a class equals call, and let's just say 4 for now. And so this is going to be a column. That's a column with medium 12. And we refresh, and what do you know? This is a column of size 4 that gets centered in the middle using this awesome new Flexbox class that Bootstrap 4 gives us. So if we make it smaller, you can see it's fine until we get to the extra small, and then it gets a little too squished because it's still trying to make it take up 4, which you would have 4 on either side, making up 12. So we don't necessarily want that for the small screen size. Let's go ahead and change it. We'll say call 4, call extra small 12. And that's not going to work. So let's see. Let's get rid of the call 4 for a second and see if we can just get it to work. Okay, so that works in extra small. Cool. So for everything else, just with that class the way it is, it's going to sit in the center the way we have it here. So I think that's exactly how we want it. It's just a one size column in the middle, and let's see here, call, just for the heck of it, we'll do call small 4, and so this is 12, that's small, which is 4. Let's go ahead and change it to medium. How about that? Okay, so this is 12 for small. Alright, so this is large. And then this is medium right here, which is 4. Let's make it a little bit more. That's 5. That's 6. Okay. So this is large. 6 on large is kind of big. So I'm going to go ahead and say call large 4. Let's see what happens now. So this is large. And then this, I believe, is still large. I think this is medium right here. This is small. And then this is extra small. So that's fine. It works for me. If you don't like the way it's jumping around, then you can change it to whatever is more suitable to your specs. But the thing to remember that is keeping it centered is this justify content center up here. Okay, so I'm going to save that for the campground show page. And now that looks the way we want it to. What about the campground, sorry, that was the campground new page. If we go into the campground show page, everything here looks okay. I can't remember if we were using thumbnails here or not. So I'm going to go to show.ejs. First of all, we never ended up using this info stuff, so I'm just going to get rid of it. This list group right here. And then it says YelpCamp up here. I really don't need it to say it twice. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that also. So really I'm just leaving the map right there. So I have the map, I have the image, and then I have the information about it here. And this is using a thumbnail. So let's go ahead and update that to use a card real quick. So if you remember, we did that over here. We have the card. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that card syntax. And then I'll come back over to show. And there's actually a lot more stuff in here than there is on the index page. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit and put in the card. So we have an image responsive. Let's go ahead. Well, that's actually the image right there. Let's just take this thumbnail, comment it out. Actually, because we have EJS, I'm going to go ahead and just cut it out and refresh. Okay, so this is with a card, and everything looks fine to me. We just want to get the description in there, and we want to put a little margin here between this and where the comments are. So I'm going to do, let's see, actually I think wells were replaced by cards also. So let's go ahead and go back to migrate, and in the migrating to version 4, we go down to panels, thumbnails, and wells. So these were all replaced to card. Okay, we'll go back to card, and let's see, titles, text, links. I'm just trying to see what the different types of cards they have in case we want to make the comments look a little bit different. So this might be what we want. We'll come back to the comments in a second. So let's get the other portion right here working. So if I put it back in, you'll see that we have the campground description and who it was submitted by, and then the edit and delete buttons. So I'm going to take all that. Oh, and then we have the cost. So before, we don't need the more info button anymore. So I'm going to do campground description. And there's actually, if you remember, there's the there is a class for the description. So if we go back to here, I think it was called card text. Yep. So we'll go ahead and do paragraph class equals card text. Okay, so then what else do we have here? Oh, we have the cost. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and then I'll get rid of the thumbnail. And let's put the thumbnail right beneath the name. So H4, pull right, and we'll see what we've got going on here. Okay, so it didn't pull that to the right. That class may have changed. We'll double check that. Description here, so it's not a very big description. Submitted by Ian 3 days ago. So I want to actually move the submitted by information further up, right underneath the name. So it'll be name, submitted by. I'm going to try to get the price over here on the right hand side, and then the description will be right here. So let's find out what happened to pull right. If we go back to migration and we go to pull right, it says added float, small, medium, large, extra large, left, right, none, classes for responsive floats, and removed pull left and right. Okay, cool. So since they're redundant to float left and right, they just want you to use float instead of pull. No problem. So we'll go over here and we'll change pull to float. And if that worked correctly, now our price is over here on the right hand side. And it's floating to the right of the description. I kind of want it up here on the top. And I think an H4 is actually a little bit big. I don't even think a heading makes sense here. So I'm just going to do a paragraph. And let's see here. Card title. I'm going to go ahead and move this above the submitted by the author, and then I'll put a class here, float left on the campground name, and then of course the submitted by is now going to float to the left, which we don't want. So we'll do a class. Let's see if we also float that to the left. Nope, that makes the description go up there. Let me see what they have in the way of clearing. Okay, clearfix updated to drop support for older browser versions. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can find anything on the clearfix. It's a utility, and it's just going to be the same class that it was before. If you don't know what a clearfix is, it's just a class that allows the element to clear floats that are to the left and to the right. So right now we need submitted by to clear the float here and the float here. So instead of using float left on the submitted by, I'm going to do a clearfix, and that clears everything beneath it. I actually don't need it there. Let me correct that. We'll do a float right and then a clearfix there. And something's not right here. Car title, float left, clearfix. Let's see if we'll go ahead and remove that. We're not going to put the clearfix on any of these. I'm now realizing what we need to do is just create an empty div with clearfix, and now you'll see that the clearfix puts this down here. But I put it in the wrong place, so I'm getting kind of all over the place now. Let's see. So I want this to be right below that, and then I want this to be off to the right. So I can actually probably put the cost up there. There we go. Okay, so I have the cost first, which floats to the right. I have the title, which floats to the left by default. You actually don't need the float left. And then the clearfix beneath that, which is going to make it to where anything that comes after this float is not going to be affected. And I'm wondering, now that I move that up top, yep, don't even need the clearfix. Okay, so these automatically are on the left, and this gets pulled to the right. It was just a matter of positioning. So if we put the cost first with the float right, everything that comes after it is just going to be in its normal position. So we have this pulled to the right, and then this stays where it normally would be, and then this stays where it normally would be, this stays where it normally would be. Okay, so I'm just going to put an HR right here, horizontal rule for the description, just to kind of separate things a little bit. So we have that separating this information from the description. And we still need a margin here. So on the bottom of that card, I'm going to put a margin bottom 4. That's a little bit much, so I'll play with it and see if 3 looks better. Okay, 3 is fine with me. Let's see what happens when we add a new comment. Uh-oh, forgot to edit the comment form too. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a second. Hello world, and hello world isn't even added. I think that's probably because I haven't updated the syntax for comments in this specific app. Let me go ahead and double check that real quick. So we'll do Mongo version 3.6.0, and we'll look at package.json, and we can see that Mongoose is an older version of Mongoose. So let's go ahead and do an npm uninstall Mongoose. And some of you may have already done this. If you haven't, great. It's a good opportunity for you to see how to fix the comments issue, which is something that a lot of students have been dealing with on the Q&A boards. So we want to npm i-s, capital S, Mongoose. That'll give us the latest version. It should give us the latest version. Hopefully it doesn't go back to the version it was before. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at package.json again. There we go, 5.0.3. That is the latest version of Mongoose. Wonderful. And let's go ahead and check our syntax, make sure that we're not doing anything that breaks the rules there. So I'm going to do a no daemon to get my server started. It's actually already started. Cancel. It's going on over here. So I'll close that. Okay, server started. And if I refresh, I'm going to delete all the comments real quick so that there's no conflicts there. Actually, it says the comments are empty, so good. So we'll add new comment. Wants me to sign in, no problem. And we'll go here, add a new comment, hello world, and there it is, hello world. What happens when we add another comment after that? And there's another one. Okay, good. So the comments are working. Can we edit them? Site is now read-only. That's something that I added so that people couldn't add, you know, bad pictures, things like that to the application. So I'm not gonna worry about that for now. I know it works. And if you try to delete it, comment deleted, and it's gone now. So we can update the styling a little bit. Let's go back to cards. Well, first let's see, we're inside of our show EJS, and if we go down to the comment is inside of a well, and if you remember, wells were replaced by cards. Okay, so the main class for a card is just card, and we'll go to the well, and we'll change it to card. Okay, and we'll go back here and refresh it. Okay, so things are looking kind of interesting here. All this stuff is over to the left. It's kind of weird. So let's see what else needs to be changed. We've got a row inside here. And that's interesting that we're doing a row inside of a loop. The row actually needs to go outside the loop. So I'm going to move that. Okay. And we've got pull right here. So that's of course going to be float right. And this will also be float right. Okay. So that just moves this stuff over to the right. We have our username, we have the text, we have edit and delete, which these buttons are really big and glaring. So I'm actually, the button is actually already an extra small. Interesting. I'm wondering if buttons haven't changed also. So we have button. Let's see if we can find our sizing. Button LG, button SM. So I don't think there is a button XS, and that may be the issue. So if we do button SM and then button SM and we save it, we go back. This is how they currently look. Yeah, there we go. A little bit smaller. That's good. Okay. And of course you won't see that if you're not the original creator. So let's figure out the margins that are going on here. So there's the add new comment button. Let's take a look at that. Here's add new comment. It's inside of text right, and that should be fine. It doesn't really need to be inside of the card. So let's see if we can just do, we have a column. I guess it could be inside of there. But we need everything to be inside of the card body. So that's one issue we're having. So we'll do a card body. And this is going to fix the padding and everything. We'll go all the way down to this last one, move it out, and then close that div for the card body that we just created. And now you'll see that all of the padding is fixed here. And honestly, that's pretty good for right now. I don't think it has to look much better than that. We'll say here's another one. Scroll down. Something weird is happening here. Let's go ahead and go back. I bet if we add another one, it's going to be even weirder. So, weirder still. Yeah, it's weird. It's like offsetting the, let's refresh it again. Yeah, it's giving a margin here where it shouldn't be. So let's go ahead and go back here and look at this. We have a row with some call medium 12s inside of it. And then we have the comment text. We could put the comment text inside of a paragraph, which would make sense. Okay, doesn't really have a major effect. There is, let's see here. Here is the main loop for the comments. And this stuff is getting pretty messed up, it looks like. The formatting. So this would be the card. And then the card body. Okay, so I may have screwed up a little bit by putting the closing card body tag there. This would go over here, and then the row would go outside of it. That is starting to look make a little bit more sense visually. Alright, still screwing things up. This is, when you see something like this with the grid, it's usually indicative that the syntax for the grid is not set up correctly. So let's go back and let's just do a test. Let's pull all of this stuff out, and I'll put it, just so I don't lose it, I'll put it over here. Put a column in here with hello world. So for each comment, we'll just get a hello world. Hello world, hello world, hello world. So that kind of tells me that something inside of here is a little bit screwed up. So let's see if we can't pick it apart and just put things back in there one at a time. So we want the comment, the username for the author of the comment. So we'll go back to, I'm going to go ahead and close out all this stuff that I'm not using. We'll go back here to the show page, rather. Yep. And we'll put in the author username. Okay, so there's 3 author usernames. Don't need that. Close that. Okay, and close that. Okay, so now we need the time that it was created. So we'll put the creation time. And we want the comment text. So we'll put the comment text. And we want, this is all the information for editing and deleting the form and whatnot. We'll worry about that in a second. Let's just get it formatted nicely. So if I go back here, refresh. Okay, Ian, 8 minutes ago, another one. Nice. All right, so let's see if we can't put cards inside of cards. So we're going to put a card here, and we'll move everything inside of it. And then we'll do a card body so that we get the padding. We'll put everything inside that. Okay, and now we have a, let's see here, card title. So let's do a card title. This doesn't necessarily have to be an H5. Let's go ahead and just make it a paragraph. And then we'll do, let's see here, the card text. And it sounds like my daughter just had a little spill, so she's crying. Sorry about that. Hopefully she's okay. Okay, so if you're wondering, my girlfriend's with her right now, so she's totally fine. We'll put the card text here, and actually the card text is going to be the comment text. And then we'll do the time that it was created at, and that can be another paragraph. And if you remember from before, if we put that first and then we give that a class of float right, then that should float to the right, and then these two will appear beneath it to the left. Okay, so let's test that out. Refresh. Cool. So we get these cards. It would be nice if they had a little bit of padding beneath them. So I'm going to go ahead and do for each one of these, I'll do a margin rather, not padding. So margin bottom, we'll do 2. And now it's got some nice spacing. So it's Ian, 10 minutes ago, another one, another one. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the comment author. You know what, that's probably good for comments for now. Let's just go ahead and get the buttons right here for editing and deleting, and then we'll move on to the next thing, which is the add new comment view. So I'll do, let's see here, this entire line, get rid of everything else, see if we can't fix the formatting a little bit. We're gonna have to do it manually. And that's an anchor. This does not need to be out. Okay, that should be good. Let's go in here and just drop it right beneath the comment text and see what happens. Alright, so it is floated to the right beneath everything, and honestly that's good enough for me. I like having the space there. You could put it up here directly to the right of this if you wanted to. I can show you what that looks like real quick, and we can make the decision whether or not we want to keep it. So I want to do this in the way that makes the most sense. So I'll do a float left with a div, and then to the right of it I'll do a div with a float right, and I'll take everything that needs to be floated left and put it inside of the float left div, and then everything that needs to be floated right. So we have this right here, we'll get rid of that, and take all this stuff and put it right beneath that. So let's space this out and see what happens. And so this is not, they're on the same line, and that's probably because we need to put this right here inside of a block level element. So we'll put it inside of a paragraph and see if that fixes it. Cool. Okay, so that actually doesn't look too bad. Let's go ahead and keep it. We have our author, what the author said, and then we have how long ago it was, edit and delete if you are the person that created it. If you're not, obviously we'll log in with Ian2. Then we'll go look at that, and now we just see the information about the other commenter. Okay, so now if we add a new comment, we want to fix this like we did before. So let's go to the campground's new. Let's see here, campground's new. This is not what I want. New EJS, if I can find it. Is this what I want? Oh, this is what we had. Okay. So we just did the row with the justify center, etc. So now if we do comments new, first thing we want to do is the I think we did like a call medium 12, and then of course we did the text center, got rid of the inline style, moved the h1 inside of that column, and then here we can just copy this from the other one. So we'll go to new EJS, we'll take the justify content center from the row, we'll put it in there, and then we'll go down here and take this class and put it on this div. And if we go back now, so here it is. Looks pretty nice. Hey, this is a comment. Submit. Created a comment, and there, since I'm the author of it, I can edit and delete that comment. Go to edit. This one needs to be changed too. So we'll go to edit or comment, edit, and change the syntax highlighting, make it a little bit bigger. Let's just do the same thing here. So we're going to do justify content center, make sure there's a space. We're going to do this div right here with call medium 12 text center. So we'll put that here, move that over, get rid of the inline styling, put this div here, go back here, get rid of the inline styling, borrow this class, go to edit, Paste that in there, save it, go back, and we're good to go for editing a comment, which makes me think that maybe we should also set it up for editing a campground. So let's go find out who was the author of that campground. Hopefully it's this Ian. Yep. So if I click edit, this one also needs to be changed. So we'll model this, of course, after the new EJS here. So we'll go to edit for campground, change our syntax. Same thing here. We want the row to have the justify content center, and then we want to have this right here, and we just want to change the inside of the H1. And so we'll get rid of the old H1 with the inline styling. Get rid of this inline styling. We'll borrow this class and paste it in there. And that should be it for the edit page. Cool. Alright, so we have our edit. We have our add new campground. We have our show page. We have our add new comment. We have our comments here. We have our edit comment. And we have, if we log out, we have this, log in, we have this, register, we have that. Let's go back to the home page, and let's just double check and make sure that the alerts haven't changed. So we'll go to documentation, alert, and let's see here. We have alert, alert primary, and then they have a role of alert. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and double check our header where we have our alert information. So we have alert, we're using alert danger, and then on both of these we'll say role equals alert. And then there's a paragraph inside of these. I don't think it's necessary. A little cameo from my daughter. Let's go ahead and see an alert, so we'll log in. Okay, so now you'll notice, if you noticed it before, there was a little bit of a spacing issue. There's a little bit of a spacing issue underneath the alert. So now that's gone. And as far as I can tell, everything is up to snuff. If you come across anything else, just leave a comment and let us know what it is that you found and what you did to change it. All right, thanks everybody.